Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Maverick Musings podcast, hosted by me, Rick. Due to the immense success of the first episode, and by success I mean somebody actually listened to it, for which I am eternally thankful for, we now arrive at episode 2, which this week is called Comfortably Numb. In this week's episode, I'm going to talk to you about something a little bit different than last week, and something a bit more light-hearted. It's something that brings me joy, relaxation, and can take me somewhere of a place of instant tranquility, and that subject is music. Also going into why I love music so much, what it means to me, how I got into it, and why it's my go-to thing. So, how I got into music was as a kid, the radio was always on. It was a case of either in the car, at home, my mum would have the radio on, either local stations or national stations. Music was always a big part of life back in the days before, Sky, Netflix, and all them things. I still remember when there was only 4 TV channels. That's how old I am. So radio was quite a big thing in our house. And I always loved hearing the different songs that came on. And even as a very small child in the car, my mum constantly reminds me that we had a Right Said Fred cassette, which really dates this story. That my mum heard me singing a song word for word off this cassette, and it wasn't even on at the time. So that just shows how much of an impact music had on me from a very early age. I think I was only about 2 at the time. But I'm from, I think, probably the last proper generation where MTV, which stands for music television, actually had music on it. And even then, I didn't get into MTV till I was about 9 or 10, just when that when that era was fizzling out. So with music, my mum introduced me to the music she listened to. So I was introduced to bands such as Bon Jovi, Kiss, Guns N' Roses, Poison, but also like Spandau Ballet, ABBA, and quite a lot of disco, 80s music. And it was one of them things where we could just sit and enjoy together, or I could borrow tapes, CDs, play them upstairs in my room, which would happen quite a lot. I would just sit in my room and listen to music and create my own mixtapes and play them, borrow my mum's CDs or cassettes, record off them, and make my own choices from the songs that were there, like cherry picking what I liked, what I didn't like. And also, me and my mum, back when I was a younger child, maybe about 5, starting from about 5 years old, we'd have record nights, we'd have a night just dedicated to listening to her vinyl collection, or as I said in my childish innocence, "Hey mum, can we listen to them big CDs?" Because I'd never seen vinyl before, or didn't know what vinyl was. So I just assumed it was an older version of the technology that was at the time, which was CDs, which always got a good laugh. And I think for a while that's what we called them in the house. And it was one of those. We'd just sit there and just listen, and it was nice. It was just totally chilled. We'd just sit there and enjoy the music together. And my mum would tell me stories about how when she saw particular bands at gigs, and this are the songs she liked at the time, and I'd sit there and I'd listen, and I'd just sit there and just be like, wow, this is really cool. This is really, even at that age, it kind of spoke to me. it kind of told me that, well, what these people are putting out, I can feel it and I can understand, and it was really quite cool. And that's probably one of the reasons why I love it so much, is because from that early age I was had all these different bands, different songs, things thrust at me, and so I started developing my own tastes, started kind of discovering, in a way, who I was through these songs. And even as a kid, it's like run home, it was either choice between TV and music, and sometimes I would choose music over anything else. Sometimes I'd choose TV, but with TV you'd be constantly changing the channel, whereas with music I could just sit there and just listen, and just spend hours just sitting there listening, or lying on my bed and listening to music and just being quite comfortable. And I suppose the reason why it's my go-to thing is because of that very reason. I was brought up with music. It was always music on in the house, and I like a lot of music, but not so much some of the newer stuff, because to me a lot of it sounds quite samey. It doesn't really have a lot of distinguishing character. Like considering like music from the 60s, 70s, up to maybe the mid 90s. Because I mean, back in the days of the 60s and 70s, there was a what was a radio limit, what you could, amount of time you could broadcast. The radio stations had a lot of power, so a lot of the older songs had possibly no more than 3 minutes to tell a story. And it's amazing what you can do in 3 minutes musically. And all the older songs, they could tell you a start, middle, and end, and transport you all on that journey. And that's probably why I listen to older stuff a lot more than I do, say, newer stuff. Just because you can go along that journey and time just seems to go so quickly, but you, at the same time, it just stands still while you're just listening to these words, this music. And it's one of those where it's one of them things where if I'm having a rough day, or I just need a bit of chill time, bit of me time, I can, if the kids will let me, and sleep when they sleep all night, I can just lie on the sofa and just put my headphones on and just listen to music. I remember one time recently, when the kids were at school and nursery, my partner was upstairs having a lie down. I was downstairs, and I just switched the TV off. It was about 2 hours before we had to go and pick them up. So I just stuck my headphones on and just lay on the sofa, and before I knew it, an hour and a half had passed, and I was just so relaxed. It was just the first time in a long time where I could just lie down and just let the music just take me out of my own head, which is just quite a nice feeling. It was just going through the different genres and the different artists and the different styles of singing. It was just one of those where I just shut my eyes and I got taken to a whole different world, and let the music and the lyrics just take me on the journey. And it was nice. It was very relaxing, and I actually felt nice and relaxed for the first time in a very, very long time. And it's something I don't get to do very often, but when I do, it's nice. It's a sense of calm in a very crazy and busy environment. But as well with that is, people who know me quite well always know that if ever I'm going anywhere on my own, or if they see me in the street on my own, I've usually got my headphones on, because music, I can't walk anywhere on my own if I don't have music to keep me occupied, to keep me busy. In a way of, it makes the walk go quicker. It can just relieve any boredom. It can stop me getting distracted, as it were. Um, which sounds a bit crazy, but it's just one of those things. Music's basically a massive part of my life, and I enjoy it, and I want to listen to it as much as I possibly can. I mean, I even go to bed and have a specific Spotify playlist to sleep to, which I had to okay with my partner to see if it was okay. Because I just find just the silence to be deafening, and I just need that music just to relax to drift off to. I mean, sometimes I can I can fall asleep listening to the loudest music. Sometimes I can fall asleep listening to the quietest music. But it's one of those where it puts me in that state of calm where I can just listen in, focus on the music, on the lyrics, and just let me drift off. And I find it nice. I find it relaxing, and I've not found anything like that before, and so it's always my go to thing. And it's hopefully not not taking me too far into a realm of I just ignore people when I have the music on, although that has happened a few times unintentionally. But I also used to be in bands as well. I was um, I was a singer in some bands, and another thing that I love about music is when you're playing and you've got a crowd in front of you, and even if, whether it be a covers band or original material, just looking out at the audience and just seeing that music's bringing them joy as well for the time that you spend with them, and that was always quite nice to see. I mean, I wasn't the best singer. I'm not the best singer. I just did it for my own enjoyment. And like I say, when you just see people's faces, and especially doing cover songs, when it's songs people know already, people enjoy, and when you see them smiling or getting into it, when you do your version, it makes you feel like you've not kind of ruined that memory for them, and they're actually enjoying the experience, which was always nice. Although, like I say, I was not the best singer. I was definitely carried by the musicians I was in the band with. Um, but music taste wise, like I say, it can range from anything really. I listen to classical music, I listen to country, I listen to dance music, rock, glam rock, pop music, Brit pop, that sort of thing. Just things I was really brought up on. And I always say if a song's written well, then it's a good song, no matter what people think of it. But there are some exceptions. Like I say, I don't really listen to a lot of the stuff that comes out at the moment, because I find it all a bit samey, or it could just be the music I've been exposed to from more modern bands or artists. Not that I'm knocking what they do. I'm just saying it's just not for me. Um, I'm definitely more of a classic, or what do they call it now, vintage music. Um, there was a TV channel called Vintage TV, which plays obviously what they class as vintage music. And I know I started feeling old when I saw Oasis and Blur pop up on this channel, and I was like, "But hold on, they were only in the 90s. Why are these vintage?" And it's one of those where something you grow up with, you don't think of as being old. It only feels like last week or the other day, and you look at it and it's like 20, nearly 30 years ago. So that was a bit sobering. So let's dive into a bit more about some of my musical tastes. So a couple of my favourite songs. So obviously this podcast this week is titled "Comfortably Numb," in honour of Pink Floyd, um, the Wall album, and "Comfortably Numb" Part 2 is one of my favourite songs just because of the relaxation it gives. I mean, there are three parts to say. Well, let's say part 2. I was thinking of another brick in the wall there. That just shows you how my head is with that album. So there are three parts to Another Brick in the Wall, all very different, but all the same song. Whereas Comfortably Numb, um, just relaxes you. It's just one of those where you can just lie down and you feel all the weight of your body just go, and it's hard to describe how you can just you can be there, but you feel like you're being lifted out of your own body and just being taken away on a journey. It's one of those things where I could listen to that song on repeat for an hour and I'd be lay there the whole time just listening and just being so relaxed. And also lyrically it's really quite amazing for a near 6 minute song to just take you on that journey where you don't feel like it's been 6 minutes. It's an absolutely amazing song, and again, off the Wall album, which was then turned into a film, it's quite amazing. But then again, it is Pink Floyd, and they are one of the best bands there has been. So I would, if you haven't listened to it, I would highly recommend it. Another song of mine that I like, that is one of my go-tos, is my favourite song ever, which people who know me, it won't surprise them, but if you saw me, if you just saw a picture of me and had a guess of, right, what's this guy's favourite song? It's Music of the Night from Phantom of the Opera, written by Andrew Lloyd Webber. And the reason why it's my favourite song is just because of how beautifully it's written and the music that goes along with it. And you can tell like the history behind the song, or the whole musical, is that Andrew Lloyd Webber was married to Sarah Brightman at the time, and he wrote the musical as a starring vehicle for her to showcase her talent, her singing range, which is astonishing. But this, you could tell, was a song that he wrote for her and his love for her, and it's honestly, in my opinion, the most beautiful song ever written, because it's just a man telling a woman how much he loves her, basically, and how through music he wants to express his love for her, and it's just an amazingly written song. And I listened to the original recording by the first West End show cast, which included Sarah Brightman and Michael Crawford as the Phantom, and just his voice everyone just sees Michael Crawford as Frank Spencer from Some Mothers Do Have Him, but his singing voice is absolutely amazing and hits all the right notes, and it genuinely makes you feel what is written, and it's really beautiful. And then after hearing that on cassette, I then got to see the film Phantom of the Opera, which starred Gerard Butler, and his take on it, even though he's not a singer, was actually quite good. Not as good as Michael Crawford's, but a very, very good effort. And then when I was 18, my one of my birthday presents was going to see Phantom of the Opera at the West End. And I am not ashamed to admit this, that I was mouthing every word from every part of that musical along with it. And when Music of the Night came on, I had tears rolling down my eyes while doing it. I'm not ashamed to say it. Just because I heard it on cassette, through film, and then through the film soundtrack, but I'd never experienced it how it was meant to be experienced until then. And just the experience of it, it just hit me in a place I didn't think it could. And so it's one of the things I'll always remember, and that's why it's my favourite song, because it just moved me in such a way that I didn't think a person could be moved. But one of my newer musical likes, song wise, is one I discovered while watching a clip of the 2023 Oscars, or was it the 2022 Oscars? I don't know. COVID just made a few years just all seem like one. But it was the Oscars segment of actors or people in the industry that they'd lost and wanted to commemorate, the in memoriam section. And John Travolta was hosting that particular portion because it was the year Olivia Newton-John was in there, in the in memoriam section. And it cut to Lenny Kravitz at a piano, and he sang this song called Calling All Angels. Now, I hadn't heard it before. I didn't know if it was a new song or an old song, but it was beautiful. It was just Lenny Kravitz at a piano, and then I think it was a flute or a clarinet playing, and it was just one of them songs where it was the perfect song for the perfect thing. And then for about 3 weeks, I did nothing but listen to it, because it was just one of those where I couldn't get it out of my head, and I had to listen to it and listen to it and listen to it, just to try and get it out of my head. But the more I listened to it, the more I was just hooked by it. And it's just one of them things that when you hear a good song, when you're moved by a song, just how music can make you feel and make you act. It's just one of them experiences, a sensory experience that for me is like no other. And I'm starting to share that with my children as well. So I've got 2 children, a 4-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy. And when they were really little, even though they are still little, me and my daughter would sit listening to music on YouTube, because it was the easiest way to get her to listen to it. And there's a video on my phone that I shared to Facebook of the camera facing forwards, and her favourite song at the time was Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie. And it's a video of her sitting on my knee, and in just the last few bits where it goes, "This is ourselves," and she sings along to it, and it's one of the most adorable things, because she cheers at the end when she's done it and she's seen herself do it. But then I started getting them into Ozzy Osbourne to Kiss and other bands like that, bands that I like. And the fact that a then 2-year-old knew pretty much all the words to Shot in the Dark by Ozzy Osbourne, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then when she went to nursery and started singing it, and it was like a proud dad moment for me. But now it's like she's starting to develop her own tastes, and my son's developing his own tastes. Because we'll flick through and we'll play play a lot of the older songs, and say some of the '90s Brit pop or like boy band, girl band things for them, and they really like it. And they don't know what the songs are called, but they'll say, "Oh, can we have this one or can we have that one?" And it's just really, really cool just seeing them like these two little people just enjoying something just for the sake of enjoying it, and dancing, singing along, making their own dances up to them. And then as soon as it finishes, they want it on again and again and again. And it's actually it's really, really nice and melts my heart at times. And it's one of those where it's one of them rare things I get to share with them, just because of the limitations I have, or quite a lot of the things I like they're too young for. So with music's like one of the things I can really share with them, and it's just seeing how happy it makes them, makes me happy, and it just takes me back to when I was a kid, and how I imagine that was for my mum with me as well, because that was a thing we shared. And it's just something I can pass on, and it's really, really quite nice. Well, that was a bit more light-hearted than last week anyway, so that's it for this week, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to a bit more of like I say, a light-hearted episode. And if you have enjoyed it, then just let me know with some feedback on what you enjoyed, maybe even your favourite songs, bands, or a musical experience that you've had. And it's been interesting to see and have you share what your musical experiences are as well. And also, before I go, if you're listening to this on Spotify, this podcast is now also on YouTube, because I decided to make a YouTube channel as well. So that's at Maverick Musings Podcast. So if you go over there, can you please like, share, and subscribe? Well, I think that's what the cool kids say on YouTube anyway. I'm a bit of an old fogey to this now. And alternatively, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is also on Spotify at Maverick Musings. So once again, thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next week.